At around 11 a.m., I'm woken up by my wife crying and saying she's committed a horrible mistake and she is very sorry. Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, going to go over a story titled, My Wife, a 34-year-old female, went to a stranger's house after drinking, and now I have two completely different accounts of what happened during that night. And big shout out to Ash for sending me this story. And guys, what we have here is yet another story about a gal who was out with that friend for the girls' night. We all know what happens there. And there was lots of drinking involved, and of course dudes. And one thing led to another, and she ended up hooking up with another dude. The thing is that this, you're going to see in the story, guys, that there isn't just that. There are two different stories going on here. There's the story that this guy's wife is giving him, and there's the story that, after some investigating, what the guy that hooked up with her is saying. And you're going to see ultimately, guys, how this guy handles the situation and the whole thing there. But it goes to show, once again, no accountability. The old problems with the girls' night. The wife or girlfriend or whatever saying one thing, but then in reality something else is happening, all that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, your gal cheats on you, it's over. No reconciliation, no going to couples therapy, none of that bullshit, it's over. Because once a cheater, always a cheater, and she's probably been doing it before a long time. You just never know. And guys are never going to get that image out of their head. I've done stories about this countless times where these guys, their gal cheats on them, they try to give it a second chance, they can't get it out of their head. And it's best to just move on and start over, especially if there are no children involved. It's a lot easier then. So, I'm going to get into this more and you'll see what I'm talking about. Starts off, says, so my wife and her friend went out drinking on Friday night, and she didn't come till 4 o'clock in the morning, which had me worried sick. That in itself is not cool. 4 o'clock in the morning? You're asking me back by midnight, even if I allow you to go out. When she finally came home, she was very drunk and was almost being dragged by her friend. The friend had a guilty look on her face and asked me to be patient while listening to her account. Patient, huh? I was, of course, alarmed. What account? The friend left saying it's better if my wife told me. My wife was obviously out at that point, so I also went to sleep. At around 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm woken up by my wife crying and saying she has committed a horrible mistake and she is very sorry. She was hysterical at that point, and I had to calm her down. And finally, after calming down, she told me she had gotten so drunk last night that she hooked up with a stranger. I was shocked, as you may imagine, so I pressed for details, and she said that she had met two guys while drinking, and they were buying them rounds. At first, she says that she turned the drinks down, but when her friend expressed an interest in one of them, that they went to talk and accepted the drinks from them. So, put the blame on the friend. Everything was great. We were having a good time. We were good little angels. But my friend, it's her fault. She was interested in the one guy. So what's a girl to do? I got to entertain the other guy. And of course, it'd be rude to pass up on drinks offered by these guys. So, what's a girl going to do? Bullshit. At the end of the day, you freaking cheated. I'd be like, I don't need to hear anymore. We're done. I've been loyal to you. I've been good to you. We're done. Says here, my wife was given the responsibility of keeping the friend of the guy busy while her friend talked to the guy. Define busy. Eventually, after some time and a lot of drinks later, they went to the guy's home, and this is where she had you-know-what with him. What part of entertaining the friend involves actually going to the dude's house and really entertaining him? And again, she's the victim here. Didn't know what she was doing. My wife says that she just went there to make sure her friend is safe, and she had no ulterior motive. What a load of crap. She did admit to some harmless flirting with the guy, but said didn't mean anything. Yeah, sure. That's probably the first truthful thing that she has admitted here, that she was doing some flirting. Not the harmless flirting, but just flirting. She was adamant that she didn't want to have you-know-what with the guy. Then I said, maybe you were forced. Let's try to find out who the guy is at first. I asked for more details, but she said she didn't remember. Oh, well, that's even better, huh? So I went to the pub in the evening and asked around, and luckily the guy my wife's friend hooked up with was there that night too. Can you imagine being the fly on the wall of that conversation? I talked to him and he painted a completely different picture of the night. He said that he and his friend were very clear with both my wife and her friend from the start that they were looking to hook up, and my wife and her friend never raised any objection. He also said my wife absolutely knew what was going to happen once they went back to the house. So these freaking scumbags, the local Chad and Tyrone at the local watering hole, no doubt saw the rings on these wives. Well, let's just say maybe they didn't have the rings on. How about that? There's an idea. But nevertheless, they obviously knew these gals had husbands or somebody and didn't give a shit. That's how Chad and Tyrone roll, and that's why I tell you guys you shouldn't do that knowingly to married women or women that are in a relationship. That ain't cool. But also that the gals knew exactly what they were doing. Imagine that. And ordinarily you might say, I'm not going to believe Chad and Tyrone because they're just as bad as the women. Well, actually, I think in this case, I would believe Chad or Tyrone here. I didn't get to meet the other mother effing guy hooked up with my wife, but I did talk to him on the phone and he said the same thing. Both women knew exactly what the deal was and they still went to his house. Shocker. So you got these guys saying one thing and you got his hysterical crying wife saying the other thing. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because she cheated. And, I noticed she said maybe we could press charges. Well, she's obviously not big on that idea because obviously there was nothing to charge because it was her idea. She willingly, with consent, went along with this. I did get heated with him, but he insisted he didn't force anyone. He was as drunk as she was, and it was completely mutual right from the moment they started talking in the bar. He said I could check the security footage to see how my wife and her friend were acting that night. I tried, but they wouldn't show me the footage without a police report. I don't know what to think here. My wife insists it's not the case, but did admit to flirting with him. Those guys insist it was mutual. My wife doesn't want to file any case against them, and I'm at a loss. Well, there you go. That says a lot. Only one thing is clear to me here. My wife put her friend's escort life ahead of our married life. Otherwise, why go to the stranger's house after midnight? That is clear to me, even if everything else is just a mystery. Any advice on how to move forward? Now, this is the end of the first part, and I'll get to the second and third part in a moment. But my advice, pretty common sense. Get out. It's over. You can't try. Regardless of the story. It doesn't matter. She cheated, okay? Obviously, she doesn't give a shit about you. And how many other times has she done this? And if this guy would allow this, she'll do it again. And again, this also shows, guys, about who your girl hangs out with. I always warned about that in the other stories and video I do on the other channel. Now with some updates here, he says, I just wanted to make a little update before I get on my flight. After I made my post, I realized I'm just too stressed to stay near my wife. Her mere presence was increasing my stress level. So I decided to go home and spend the New Year's Eve with my parents, aka people who won't stab me in the back. My wife was distraught and crying hysterically, but honestly, my only worry was to reach the airport on time. Of course she was. Well, good for this guy getting out of there because he needs some freaking time apart to clear his head. Like you said, be with people he can trust and think. And being around her, crying and carrying on and all that, just make him crazy. It says here, she has been asking me to go to couples therapy. She says she will give up drinking and she will stop going out with her single friends, etc. Too late. But I told her I don't care I don't care, and you're welcome to have a big group activity. Speaking in code, while I'm gone, for all I care. I just want some peace and quiet, and I'm going to be in my safe space now. My home used to be my safest space, and my wife was my rock, but now that reality has been shattered. Anyway, she also decided to go to her parents' house, so she dropped me at the airport and was still begging to take her with me. Not a chance in hell, honey. But I need some time alone or my brain will overheat. And I don't know under what circumstance will I see her again. Divorce or reconciliation. I have no idea. So thank you to everyone who commented, and maybe I will make an update when I make a decision. Right now, I just need your best wishes. Thank you. Yeah, this guy needs to talk to his dad, assuming his dad is a old school masculine male who will don't say do this couples therapy horse shit and actually say drive the bitch. Next update. He says, I'm home right now. I'm enjoying the cooking of my mother, and I'm also reconnected with a few old friends who have come home for the holidays. We did some boating in one of the lakes that we have here. It was amazing. During the holidays, that's got to be pretty freaking cold. Being in the company of people whom you trust who not hurt you really helps you a lot. As for my wife, I'm still not talking to her, except to tell her that I have reached home safely and I will contact her when I want. My mom has talked to her only once or twice, but they don't know anything yet. I told them that we are just having some troubles. My parents have been married for 28 years, so they know better than to interfere in my marriage. Wow, that's old school. Anyway, that's all I have to share right now. I have not yet decided whether I will stay married or not. Right now, it's just to enjoy the festival of Christmas with my folks, and then I will decide based on how I'm feeling then. Thank you all for your support. Now, that was the last of his updates, and I'm going to keep an eye on to see where things go here, but I have a pretty darn good idea where things are going to go. If he was literally telling her, at this point, I don't care if you have an ORGY or group, you know what, while I'm gone, that pretty much says everything you need to hear here. But again, like I said in the beginning, once a cheater, always a cheater. It doesn't matter the story, but you know, you would think, because I don't buy what she's saying for a second. I think she's lying through her freaking teeth. You would think at the very least she could have some integrity and say, okay, this is what happened. The guy would actually have some little bit of respect for her, even though he would divorce her, of course, if she completely came clean, honestly, okay, I did hook up with a guy, I knew I was doing, I'm awful, I'm sorry, something like that, even though there'd be more to it, and she wouldn't, only sorry because she got caught, that type of thing. But regardless, doesn't matter. He needs to cut all ties with her and move on. And that they mentioned that, I would say to her, honestly, would be a good idea, is to say, I got security footage. I saw the security footage from that bar, and now I saw what you did, and see what she would say. See what she would come clean. That'd be pretty funny. But anyhow, gonna read a few comments here before I end this thing. One of them says, have you got kids? If not, get yourself a clean break. My buddy is going through the exact same thing. It's humiliating for him to try to navigate her infidelity. The only reason he's doing it is because he has kids. You're still young. There are plenty of women out there that will give you what you're looking for in life without the baggage. Well, I wouldn't go too far. I would be careful with that one there. Sadly, a lot have baggage and will bring a lot of freaking drama. The good ones, and they are out there, are in small supply, sadly. Another guy says, did your wife at any point of that night mention that she was married or not interested in hooking up? There's a good question. I mean, at some point between flirting all night and agreeing to go back to his house, how does that not come up if she's 100% did not want him to make a move and was only there to babysit a 30-year-old woman looking for a hookup? This is why I think she's gaslighting you. What grown-ass 30-year-old woman needs a babysitter for a hookup, and what married middle-aged woman thinks flirting and going home with a stranger is no big deal? Well, nowadays, in Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0, that apparently is quite common. It honestly sounds like your wife and her friend had identical nights, except her friend doesn't have a husband waiting for her at home. Okay, so obviously her friend is not married. Hanging out with the single friends, huh? She misses the old days when she got the attention and can get guys to hook up, so she had to hang out with a single friend to get that feeling again, and oops, hooked up. Last one says, they referred to you to security footage. Yeah, you haven't seen it yet, but you know it's going to back up their version of events, though it obviously won't show everything. Your wife played wingman for her friend, hooked up, and is now trying to minimize what she can do to save the relationship. Personally, I'd walk. If what she did was a one-time mistake that she'd never do it again, that's what a counselor is going to do. She doesn't need you to tell your wife to not do it again. So they are just going to spend the time trying to convince you to get over it. Your wife knew the potential consequences and she made her choices. Now you need to do the same. Yeah, the whole couples therapy, marriage counseling, that's what they're going to do. They're going to just try to convince the guy to give her a second chance. That's how these things usually operate in all these servers. Because I've done on my other channel like 1,100 videos, and I've read way more stories that I've decided what I'm going to use for video. And these guys have gone through the marriage counseling, they all say the same thing. The marriage counselor, which often is a woman, is trying to convince the guy to take her back, okay, and not actually address what she did. And some of these guys are worn down and eventually, cave. And others say, not happening, and they literally walk out. And sometimes those couples therapy are mandated by the state before they can actually go through the divorce. Some states you got to be going back and forth with that for, I guess, 6 months or a year. I don't know. So, but some guys have written about that and said it doesn't go anywhere, and they're always trying to support the gal. So, anyhow, I talked to his dad, find out his options, talk to a lawyer. Good, bad, or ugly, what he could be hit in terms of alimony, splitting up the assets, who knows? Find all your options and then move on. Again, he's young. He's got plenty of time ahead. no sense being married to someone like that would do that to you, because she will do it again, mark my words. And you guys all know this. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Then just think about this. And guys, if you got a good story you'd like to share that you found online, by all means, email it to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it, and I will eventually. Like I said in a lot of videos this week, I was on vacation for 10 days in Ireland. I was in Ireland and then Northern Ireland. Great time. But I got a big backlog of emails to go through, so I will get to them when I get a chance. Just keep them coming, and I'll use them. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.